Hey grade nines. So today during our lesson, I'm going to be supporting some of the classmates to have extra time with their English tests. Therefore, I might not be available to explain this in person. So I'm going to pre-record what I want you to do. So you'll remember that we left off on Monday with postponing the journal entry, and I said you would work on it during Thursday's class because I wanted to explain what we were going to do. So we're going to apply some of the principles you're learning in life science to analyzing your progress with English language acquisition and English language correctness. So, you first need to remember the focus skill you have been working on for the month of September. Our goal with this activity is to empirically measure if it is improving. Okay, so first you need to think about what was the skill that you taught your lesson on when you taught your lesson to our class. So it could have been removing sentence fragments, words to avoid, prepositions, plurals, those were common ones. There is a preview at the end of these slides in case you've forgotten, and you also posted it to Schoology. But if you've been working on improving this month, I sure hope you didn't forget. So first, remember that skill. Second, on your journal, so you should have your journal document for EAL also open. Open that up, look at page 2, and check out my color code. What color represents that error? So if it was words to avoid, it's this bright blue color. Green is for verb tense, orange prepositions. Know your skill, know your color. Once you've got that, let's move on. And with that open journal, you're going to consider every entry a sample, a data collection sample. If you are in Miss Bosco's English class, I also want you to open up your process paragraph. That process paragraph also has my color code on it. Okay, and anybody in another English class, if you would like me to do that, send me a copy of some other work and I am happy to broaden your data sample and give you more feedback. Okay, so what we're going to do now is calculate your error ratio. So ratio is the number of something to the total. We're going to calculate the ratio of those errors as it progresses over time. And we're going to do some graphing. So the graph needs to be included in your journal entry. The first step is to create a data table. So you're going to have the date, and if you don't know the exact date, use something approximate. Where it says CEA here, this could be your process paragraph, but something from English class. We did journal entries on these dates. You should have a journal entry from each of those. Okay, so you're going to plot the number of samples and identify them by the rough date you wrote it. Okay, I'm hoping you have 4 data samples with my color code. Everybody should have 3, unless they didn't do their journals. In which case, please do it. That's your first step. Send me a message letting me know, and I'll help you out with that. So if you're that far behind, all of this is going to need to be caught up in order to do this activity. Then, in the table, you're going to identify the total word count, so the number of words you wrote. So if your August 16th journal entry had 321 words, you're going to put 321 here. Okay? If on September 3rd you wrote even more and you had 404, you're going to put that here. So remember to use the tools count words feature. You don't have to go and count them manually. Okay? So total word count on all of your samples. If you had anything else that I color-coded, add it there. So we're gonna have between 3 and 5 data points on this. We're going to examine next how many places we see that color that represents our skills. So if we're working on plurals, we're going to see pink. I'm going to go back to this August 16th entry that I had 321 words on, and I'm going to count the number of times I see a pink highlight or a pink piece of text. If I see 7 of those, then I'm going to put 7 here in errors with X. X is my focus skill. Okay? Total words, number of words with that error. Okay? Continue to do that for all of your entries. Ideally, we see a trend that's declining. We have fewer errors per total words. As we go along, that's going to be evidence for learning. Okay? And next, we're going to calculate the error ratio. So once you have your total words and the errors with that colored skill, we can move on to calculating the error ratio. So to do that, we divide the number of errors by the total words in each entry. It's going to give us a decimal point score. So let's say I had 7 errors out of 321 words. I'm going to do the calculation. 7 divided by 321. It's going to give me a decimal point. I convert that to a percentage. Then I fill that percentage into this right-hand column for the error ratio. So let's do a bit of review of some life science terms. We have experimental data here. What we're doing is measuring whether you've made improvement with this focus skill. So, what do you think the dependent variable is? That's right, it's the error ratio. What is the independent variable? The independent variable is time over time. Best kind of graph we want to use? A bar graph or a line graph is probably the most effective. So then you're going to graph your error ratios. You can do it by hand on paper, or you can use sheets and do it digitally. If you do it on paper, you'll snap a photo and put that in your journal. Digitally, insert a screenshot. So this is a scatter plot. I know it's not exactly that, but your graph doesn't have to look the same, but I like that it shows that independent variable along the horizontal x-axis and the dependent variable along the vertical y-axis. Okay, so the success criteria of a good graph is that it shows a clear title, the independent and dependent variables are graphed on the correct axes, and your units are labeled and correctly scaled. So you're counting by a set number of units. After your graph, you're going to answer the journal question. It should take the form of like a CER paragraph as you would in science. Claim, evidence, reasoning. Get your evidence from what you've calculated in the graph. Okay, so the next step after all that is done. So I anticipate this will take you most of our class. If you are somebody getting extra time for English during this time, you are expected to still do this. You're going to have to find your own time after class. And the great thing about this lesson being recorded is you can choose to do that when you want. However, this must be done by Monday. So your final step is to determine what skill you want to focus on in October. If the one you did in September got worse, or stayed the same. You can choose to keep working on it. That's the plan. We want to keep going until we master it. If we feel we're ready to move on and you're seeing more prevalence of another color, you're going to determine this. Okay, so when we're together again on Monday, I'm going to ask you to identify this, and I'm also going to have my own ideas in mind. So that should be everything. You're required to submit that journal entry, including a graph based on this lesson, by Monday, October 4th. Okay? If you have any questions, I am happy to answer them when I am not invigilating a test.